Hey guys, just a few last thoughts from our trip. I'm in the car with Stian. We're driving through Germany on the last couple of legs of our trip, going from Denmark through Germany, through Austria to Italy, back up through Switzerland, Liechtenstein, now Germany, and back to Denmark. What we've done is we've been doing some dives in the Alps, and we've done a technical course with Ben out at Simone's place, done some diving at Simone's place in Italy as well. And we went to do a dive on the Haven up at Genoa. Then we went to Switzerland and did some diving there as well before turning tail back to Denmark. And what we've been bringing along for this trip, our tool of choice for this kind of sortie has been the UTDs Z-system, which is a Sidemount system, and Stian has brought his MX configuration as well to add to it if need be. And I just wanted to quickly touch on my thoughts on how that worked for us and which benefits I saw to it in the various scenarios, because we've been through a few different ones. Like we've been in the Alps where we were a bit remote and we had poor access to gas, and we've been to Italy where we did a little bit deeper dives and needed different gases, and then back up to Switzerland again, and it's a few different scenarios. And as well as that, we did the technical course we've done with a couple of guys that were in Backmount, so there's an interoperability aspect of it as well. One of the things that I think is really interesting is the scalability of it, because in the Alps we needed single tank dives, so we just brought one tank and went diving. We also had the option of adding the rebreather layer to it. In the Alps we could have very quickly, we didn't, but we could have very quickly run into trouble finding gas to cover us, because we had a lot of miles in between dive centers. It didn't become an issue, but might as well have. And the advantage here is in 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes, whatever, you can change your set system into an MX rebreather, and it's fully interoperable. So Steen and I could have gone diving with it, no problems whatsoever, which is handy. I think it's a nice option to have. I think that was pretty handy. And as soon as we then hit Italy, we needed much more gas, so we'd add a second tank to the set system. And then for the deeper dives still, we'd need deco gas. So we'd just bring a third bottle and swap that as needed. The system facilitates that option, and I think that's quite nifty, saying the least. If we hadn't had the set system, if we were all in the tech course diving Backmount, we would have had a bit of an issue in terms of consistency, because while all of our gas sharing procedures and all of our operations are set up the same way, and we're on the same system throughout the entire dive, that wouldn't have been the case if we'd chosen to bring our Backmount sets, Steen and I as well, because halfway through the dive, that is when we're done with the bottom part, we'd need to do our decompression, and we'd need to go on a separate way of doing that, and that would have left us with some complications. I'm not saying it's impossible, I'm just saying, I like that about the set system, and I found that very, very handy. So that's the scalability benefit and the consistency. I think that's quite handy. Some of the downsides to it, I've been posted a few thoughts at Dima last year and in other places. online as well. I try to moderate myself there in terms of time spent, but and other places, people have asked me, that it's much more complex, and I don't think, that we need to compare apples to apples here, and I think that, comparing it to the doubles, back-mounted doubles, I needed a course for that system when I started diving it. When I started diving the twins on my back, I did a course, and you can either do a crossover course to that system, or you can do your next course using that, whichever way you want to do it and whichever way is practical. And your instructor, of course, will help you figure that out. But you need to actually be trained on a system before you go diving. That's a pretty important thing to just keep in mind. And also, but when I did go and receive my training, first on doubles in the Backmount configuration, traditional Hogarthian, and subsequently on the Z-system, what happened when I went from the traditional jacket style BCD into the twins on my back, it was really new and complex, and there was a lot to learn then for me. That was my subjective evaluation of it at the time. That was my perception of it. And when I crossed over to Z-system from the back-mounted doubles, less so, because there's the interoperability across those two systems, and there's a recognition level across the two. I've also done training of brand new students in the Z-system, and they've had the same complexity and intensity level as the ones I've trained in Backmount, and reached the same fine results in the same time spent with the same cost. So I don't really see an issue there either. So that's what I think of the complexity level argument. Fair game, it's a subjective thing, but just to keep in mind that a course is needed regardless. That's another concern I've been posted is the number of failure points on the Z system. There are more failure points. It's a difficult thing to approach without also pointing out, one, those failure points, none are dynamic. They're all static, which makes a difference. We can talk about what the statistical chance are of a failure, and then compare static to dynamic, I suppose. But so that's one thing. There are less. There are no dynamic failure points on the Z system, albeit there are more failure points than the traditional Hogarthian setup. But more importantly is there are no critical failure points. So there is no part of the Z system that I can lose, and it alone is a massive problem for me. So I think that's worth remembering. Yeah, sure, maybe there are more O-rings perhaps, but really, is that big of an issue? I don't see it, But that's for the individual diver to choose. On the other hand, though, you do get some benefits. I think from this past week or two with Steen and the guys. I think some of the benefits are pretty clear in terms of consistency across the types of diving I do, and the possibility of adapting to different scenarios by removing or adding tanks or a loop and a canister for a rebreather, even like you can scale it out however far you want to go, and that includes any number of deco tanks for the technical domain, any amount of stages for the penetration domain. And throughout all of it, all of the procedure is consistent, which I like. I really like that. I think that's very, very good contribution to my diving, and you could argue diving in general. But, so yeah, I think that's really, really handy. You also get, it gives you a redundancy as well. You know, like in the tech course, we had an experience with for exercise a lost deco bottle, and with the Z-system, that's pretty easy to negotiate. You just donate the long hose from your teammate, and you go through the deco. So you really save a lot of backgas in that response. You can also donate the long hose, see if you can fix the problem if it's a first stage that needs to be dealt with or whatever. You know, maybe that'll save you a minute or something on deco. But particularly, I think if the deco bottle is actually lost, I think the benefit is clear. So yeah, overall, I was very, very pleased with using the Z-system for these different types of diving in these different types of environments, and I just wanted to share my thoughts around that with you as we come up on the final leg of the journey. And it looks a little bit something like this. I'll show you a view of the landscape to finish this post with. And yeah, take it easy and have fun.